Last episode, we saw Julius Caesar come to Britain, make a lot of noise, and then leave. A lot of history books will tell you that nearly a century later, the stammering, limping Emperor Claudius invaded Britain, simply to boost his reputation. And yes, that was part of it. But if you stop there, you miss the real story, because the invasion of AD 43 was not some random act of imperial ego. It was planned, calculated, and backed by the full power of the empire. It was a textbook geopolitical move. Rome sent roughly 40,000 troops, backed by a machine of logistics, discipline, and intimidation, to do what Caesar never could: turn Britain into a Roman possession. And in the process, Rome changed Britain forever. So today, let's look at the brutal logic behind Rome's conquest of Britain. Hit like, save this video, and let's get into it. In AD 43, the new emperor Claudius was sitting on a political volcano. Since childhood, he had been mocked as weak. He stammered, he limped, and when the previous emperor was assassinated, Claudius was supposed lie, found hiding in the palace, before the Praetorian Guard dragged him out and declared him emperor. In a military empire like Rome, that was a dangerous beginning. He had no great battlefield glory, little respect from the Senate, and every reason to fear becoming disposable. So Claudius needed something huge: a foreign war, a decisive victory, a triumph no one in Rome could ignore. And his eyes turned to Britain. To Claudius, Britain was not some useless island at the edge of the world. It was a prize, rich in metals, valuable in trade, and important enough to reshape Rome's western frontier. A land with tin-lead silver and a fresh supply of slaves. Conquer it and you did more than win fame. You silenced your enemies, filled the treasury, and proved you were a real emperor. So this war was not optional, it was necessary. When the Roman army crossed the Channel, this was no mere raid. It was overwhelming force against British chariots, painted warriors, and tribal resistance. Rome deployed the full machinery of imperial war: heavy infantry, tight formations, short swords, military engineering, and a supply system built to sustain conquest. And then Claudius added something else, something theatrical: war elephants. He brought elephants from Africa to help crush resistance, or at the very least to crush morale. In Britain's cold mud, their actual battlefield value is debatable, but psychologically, they were devastating. Imagine being a British warrior, still measuring courage in chariots and spear charges, and suddenly seeing giant gray beasts rolling toward you like moving hills. At that point, this was not just war, it was shock and awe. But Rome did not hold Britain through violence alone. The most effective conquest is not just taking land, it is changing how people live, what they admire, and who they believe they are. So the Romans began building. On the banks of the Thames, they founded Londinium, the ancestor of modern London. They laid down roads, built baths, raised towns, expanded trade. And to the local elite, Rome offered something even more powerful than fear: comfort, status, luxury, a place inside the system. Instead of fighting Rome, British nobles were invited to dress like Romans, drink Roman wine, and enjoy Roman urban life. This was empire at its most dangerous. Not just conquest by the sword, but conquest by seduction. The Roman historian Tacitus later captured the idea perfectly. What people called civilization was often just another name for domination, because beneath the baths, roads, and polished stone was exploitation, heavy taxation, land seizure, debt, extraction. And Rome was not only interested in political control, it also wanted spiritual control. To break Celtic resistance at its roots, the Romans attacked the Druids, the island's religious and cultural leaders. Rome believed Britain was being tamed, civilized, pacified. But empires often make the same mistake. They confuse silence with loyalty, because extreme oppression creates extreme backlash. And in AD 61, Rome made a catastrophic error to seize an inheritance. Roman officials publicly humiliated a widowed queen named Boudica and abused her daughters. They thought they were disciplining a provincial nobody. Instead, they ignited one of the most violent uprisings in the history of Roman Britain. Soon much of Roman Britain would be consumed by fire. So in this clash between empire and resistance, between elephants and fury, who would have the last word? Follow for the next episode, where we meet the woman who made Rome tremble, Boudica, and we'll see how her revenge set London ablaze. See you next time.